Ladies and gentlemen, it is definitely smoke 'em if you got 'em, and drink beer October, or whatever libation you may be having or using today. Now, the energy is very weird. It is October. Hey, and I know that I've been talking a lot about Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter. What is up? So, let me put it this way, the best that I can, if I can. Capricorn is like status quo, the old system, and restrictions. What is up, y'all? October is crazy, you know that. I was gonna upload a video on the hurricane that is happening. I don't know if you can see this here, but it is stuck. I don't know if you can see that. It is stuck at 77% uploaded with 2 minutes left. So rather than fight the internet little G gods right now, I just thought I would go live. As far as I know, they don't have access to this phone yet. So that is great news. And so for the last 24 hours, I have been in good vibes and prayers for Louisiana and Louisianans mode, praying that God keeps Cajuns safe and that may they find a miracle if they need it. And technically, all October, I've been pussyfooting around the subjects, like the real hardcore main subjects. I'm not sure now's the best time to talk about it, but we're going to, you and I. And so, yeah, Louisiana keeps getting hit and the West Coast continues to be on fire. And our designs for building infrastructure in the future or adapting to natural disasters or our ability to work together as a team has not been that great over the last 5 years. And one of the things is like, I've been being forced to reflect back a lot. Like I started Thor News back in like 2012. And so where I did this full time, where I made like a video a week minimum. And it was a total change of my life. Like all I did was pretty much write movies before that, make films. I don't know, I never considered making videos. And then I just started making videos and then I just started making videos all the time. And so Asteroid Fight Club started, I don't know, around 2013 when the meteor exploded over Russia and blew out all those windows. And then there was the John Teeter thing where I was like, hey, y'all, World War III is coming in 2015. We have to avoid World War III. And so we did that, which was a great, super thing. But the next 5 years were like the status quo had like full rulership and was like, hey, this is what we're going to do with our status quo power. 5 years after that have been a bumpy ride and fun has been few and far between. And so I like begged and implored and told everybody, look, dude, I'm mapping out the year 2020 for you. And January 15th is going to be a major fucking deal. That whatever happens, Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn was going to be a major fucking deal, bro. It's like the whole world was going to change. I didn't exactly know how. I just knew it was coming. And then the date after that was like, all right, Saturn is going to retrograde back to Pluto, the closest it will get within 3 degrees of the January 15th point, on the 27th of September. And so for like the week leading up to then, and then for like the week leading after, man, everybody, like you got Mars will be retrograde, you got Hades and Karma. It's not a good time to fuck around. Like, yo, play defense, man. Well, safe to say, not everybody played defense. And so, as Planetary Defense Commander, it has been really fucking weird to watch a super spreader event take place at the White House, and then it infected the Pentagon as well. So you had a bunch of people from the White House go into quarantine, many of them positive, and then you had a bunch of people in the Pentagon go into quarantine. So like part of the October surprise for October was that like, hey, a bunch of the White House people and a bunch of Pentagon people got the virus. And it has definitely been, you know, what is it today, the 9th? And I don't wish harm on anyone. I tried to get everyone to play defense. My main points the whole year have been make sure everybody stays fed, stabilize the food chain, stabilize supply chains. This is going to be a rough road for 2 years because these pandemics and plagues usually last about 2 to 3 years, but then they're over, regardless of vaccine. It's how it usually goes, unless this is a geoengineered, geocrafted, spliced up virus of doom. Then it's a different story, but we're taking it one fucking challenge at a time. And then I literally spent multiple videos where I went live and begged our president or anyone who connected to him that listens to my channel, like, yo, dude, shut those fucking rallies down. That is a bad idea. I've been anti-rally and anti-protesting, where I like to stay in the middle. I've been like, hey, protesting, bad idea. Pandemic. Rallies, bad idea. And so, like, Israel went back into lockdown. Russia went back into lockdown. Things like France went back into lockdown. And that you had the full moon on the 1st. They have a full moon on the 31st. And so, like, bro, I don't know if you remember the Herman Cain timeline. Like on the 27th, he went to a rally. On the 2nd, he tested positive. On the 10th, they said he's doing great. Like the 18th, they're like, oh, he's cured. 25th, they're like, he's never been better. And on the 31st, he died. So the energy in the middle of October is super fucking creepy. And it's super spooky. But whether it be with hurricanes or with the plague, I have done a great job. I believe. You don't have to agree with that. So it's just weird. Like I said, I was trying to upload this video. It got stuck at 77%, 2 minutes left to upload. As you know, definitely since 2015, I've just been dealing with hacker fucking problems nonstop all the fucking time. Because the people who are up against me may not be the best at weather or sunspots or, I don't know. They may not be better in that area, but they're definitely good at the hacking shit and the like keyword shit and the like routing people's money and views and shit and the like. And so I don't want to spell out what I think's coming this month. I mean, I spelled it out for months. And like now we're here. And that's where I feel like, dude, I have fucking worked my ass off. And this has been my pretty much only focus since December, the Christmas eclipse. And October's gonna be fucking spooky and weird and chaotic, and then November's gonna be probably weird as well. But it'll be better in December. So cheers. And, you know, you can pretty much, the Eris alignment takes place on the 17th. It's where the sun, Earth, and Eris are aligned, and the sun is on the Earth is on the same side, as opposed to the conjunction when it's on the other side. And so, like, we are building towards mass chaos, mass jealousy, mass envy, mass strife, mass. And I'm not saying that like it's going to be totally lawlessness, but we've always been focused on October 16th. Like for months and months, I've been talking about September 27th and then August 16th. And so, I mean, I definitely recommend everybody have stocked up on food and medicine and for a weird and sketchy 2 or 3 months. And so, if nobody minds the Nostradamus year that I've been using all year to guide us through, and it's partially why I've taken the plague so seriously all year, because this was the only year that mentioned a plague again and again and again and again and again and again and again. And in the writing, it mentioned Billie. And for whatever reason, Billie Eilish, like, I didn't know who she was. And then, bam, in December, she just showed up on the scene. I was like, I bet she's the X-Man. Only time will tell, though. All right, so October. It's from the same year we've been using all year, bro. And here it's 1565, the Nostradamus Presages. Now there's the French, Spanish, Latin version, and then there's the translation. And they're usually two different things, but October's everything changed. 1 to persecute 4, but it's quarter. Malady, Ors Malady, which was like hours of malady. Bien loin mortalite, BIEN LOIN MORTALITE. De quatre douze plus ne viendront débattre. Of the 4, 2 will come to debate no more. This is fucking October, bro. Then it goes exile, ruin, death, famine, perplexity. So you can decipher that however you want to. And so the other night I watched The Breakfast Club. I hadn't watched it in a couple years. I mean, from beginning to end, you know. And it was when the janitor's talking to the principal, Principal Dick. I don't know if it's vice principal. And the janitor or the principal was talking about why Principal Dick was talking about why he hated the kids. He basically said he hated them because when they grow up, they're going to be running the world. And they don't know how to do it. I'm paraphrasing really badly. And so that movie was made in 1984, which was 36 years ago. And so this has kind of been my whole point, with no disrespect to the baby boomers, of Generation XE, of like, it's 2020 and we've got the same fucking principle of like Earth and America that we've had since 1984. That like we're still kind of stuck in 1984. And it makes sense in a very Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, and Capricorn kind of a way, where like this is like the last gasp of this 1980 to 2020 cycle. And so Jupiter and Saturn will be leaving Capricorn and entering Aquarius like on the 20th. And then aligning together in the sky on the 21st. So like we are going from like the old 80s we've been fucking stuck in for 40 years into the future, finally. And so definitely the passing of Eddie Van Halen has fucked me up. And like, I think they really hit the scene in like 78. And so it's like, I don't know, like Van Halen and U2 were like the soundtrack of the 80s. And the 80s were pretty dang good. And then they gave birth to like the Prince Funk Revolution. And then when we got to 1999, it was like everybody turned back the clock back to like 1984 again. So it feels like we've been stuck in 1984 since 2012. And I'm definitely sick of 1984. Man. And I've been saying that like October is a Petri dish month. That I don't know how you're doing your shit, man. But like when a virus or situation, whatever you believe it is or isn't, that like you're going to pull data from multiple sources, talking multiple countries, from February all throughout December. Like, it's best to not draw any fucking grand conclusions, because real information is very hard to come by. And so I've always said, with the way we botched the like school reopenings and how we really didn't work together or have a plan on anything, October was always like staring at us like it's the big Petri dish science experiment month. And so I would guess you can see how the next few weeks are going to be like we're at Defcon WTF. Just like Defcon, what the fuck? It is so crazy. And it's weird. I talked about how, like, you know, with me, staying cool and playing defense is like my jam. A lot of people are always like, a good offense is the best defense. And I was like, no, bro, not during Mercury retrograde. No. I can play offense when I gotta. But I'm gathering that there are some people who couldn't play defense to save their life. And so I definitely expect the next 2 weeks to be super weird. And then when we hit the maximum weirdness point, what we do after that, I don't know. And I think I discussed this last night. But that usually October is like the spooky month, the month where we remember the dead. And that there have been people that we knew and loved that died and are gone, but are still here with us in like spirit and Jedi sense. And that Pluto's a very Halloween type fucking planet. And so technically, like 2020 to me has been the most Halloween-y year we've had ever that I can remember. Where it's just been spooky all year. Where it seems like we've had to think about death a lot. I mean, some people haven't. Some people have just been like, I'll ignore it. And everybody's got their own strategy for how to deal with now and the future, you know. No, even though I'm having hacker issues tonight, the very first day of October, man, I felt like the first 2 or 3 days, I felt like I was going to explode. Because I felt like there were a lot of people upset with me, or there was just a lot of fucking aggro on me. And I was confused because I was like, why? I've fucking put out wonderful guidance all year long. I've done a pretty stellar job, although I do run my mouth and talk shit a lot. And sometimes, you know, I don't necessarily know specifically 100% who's hacking me every time. So sometimes I may talk shit towards people who don't deserve it. And for that, I sincerely apologize. But I definitely think I've done a good job as Planetary Defense Commander in 2020. And my recommendations of making sure everybody stays fed throughout the whole year, keeping everybody in their homes, keeping the power on, the water clean, and everybody staying cool as we deal with this, and probably have to deal with the same next year. That has always been a great strategy. And that I've never looked at the stock markets as my Lord and Savior. Like, I've never looked at the stock markets. Thank you, Al. Thank you very much, Al. It's just been a fucking wild year, man. And so the Black Panther died this year. And I've always felt like there was a connection between Valhalla and Wakanda. It's like and although some people argue that like the Vikings were warring jerks, but in my realm, you know, like my Valhalla is as cool as Wakanda, and so it's like the super cool white people and the super cool black people who know how to run the town and keep everybody happy and keep justice all around. And so I talked about this at length, that like all the things that have just made me be like, whoa. That like when Trump's brother died, at no point in time did I, like, that was a bad sign, dude. That was a bad sign. Like, oh shit. And then the Black Panther died. And like Eddie Van Halen just died. And so, like, there are definitely going to be some October surprises. So don't lose your cool. And I have said before, like, if they are gonna, I mean, if a major politician or major politicians or Pentagon people were to get sick and then die, the government would then probably overcorrect on its lockdown attitude. And so that, like, although I think December will be better, and I've always said that like, I don't think we're going to be fully out of the woods until after March of 2021. Like, whatever the fuck we're dealing with. And so we've literally not attempted teamwork all year as a whole. And I just want to say, I do not think the president is out of the woods yet. I don't. Thank you. Someone sent me something. Thank you, Soul. I was thinking someone like Thank you, Al. You guys are great. And so as Planetary Defense Commander, I'm saying I don't think he's out of the woods yet, man. And I don't think they're giving us honest updates on his condition. So it doesn't seem like there's a real plan in place to how to deal with the worst case scenario. See, Colleen is saying COVID is fake. I mean, that's what we've got. I don't, like, let's say the president does pass away on the 16th or the 31st. So the people who've said the whole time that it's not real, what will they then tell themselves and other people? It's like, everything is so weird. To get back to any type of norm over the next 2 years, you got to get people basically wearing masks. It does not look like that is going to happen. Like we are so mentally structured that like even doing a simple thing of wearing a mask, we're not gonna, it doesn't seem like we're gonna get unified on that. And so the very same people that have been telling me that it's a hoax, most of the time they were giant presidential supporters of Trump. So all of Trump's people have been telling me like, oh, it's a hoax. Well, why would the president be like, oh, I got the hoax? And like I said, I know too many people who have too many people. It's real. From my calculations, it's fucking real. And so you could either be smart and take precautions, or not be smart and take precautions. And so I don't know, the president having to. I mean, if you looked at his tweet level, the amount of times he tweets is gone. Like we're 9 months in, and so the people whose strategy. But I'm just saying, okay, let us say worst case scenario happens, and on the 16th of the 31st, it is announced that he didn't make it. What are you going to say to me then? You know, I don't, that's why Israel and Russia just went back into, and that like it has been impossible for me to put together a team for the last 8 years. And so people seem to live in some fantasy world where that like every nation is working together on this, and that like there are all these secret groups that are super working together and totally just, have you not seen the like divorce rates? Like people, the energy has not been conducive to teamwork since 2012. Like how many people do you know that have gotten divorced? How many of you are still with your lover of 2012? Like how many of you have had fights with your mom, your dad, your stepdad, have lost, like that, just the idea that there really is some type of a group across Russia, China, Israel, Iran, India, Japan, like the idea that like all these fucking people are secretly working together as a group when like no one else on the planet is working together as a group. I mean, the only way to even get any teamwork out of people is with money. You pay them. It's technically not a team, then they're employees. And I still think like 30% of the people believe that like the president is like Superman, and then he's made from super skin and super eyeballs and super kidneys, and like, and so nothing can hurt him ever, no matter what he does. And so whatever happens, and even if it's like we're peaking towards, even if he's healthy and we have an election, that you're going to have 50% of the people, or 45 to 64% of the people just be totally unhappy, like some story that they'd built up in their mind of what was going to take place over the next 4 years isn't going to happen. And so like, October is going to be a giant reality check. Herman Cain tested positive on the 2nd of July, and then he died on the 30th of July. 28 days later. And where it attacks in like, So that's what, like, I don't, no matter what, we're not going to be able to have any type of realistic conversation until after the election. And I've said that, and I'm still saying that. And I'm staying strong. I think, I don't know if my videos are as good or my output is as good, because the energy is so fucking intense, and I'm not sure everyone is aware of all the things that are happening on all the levels, and that there really is a bunch of shit that no one knows about, and that there's so much we don't know. There's so many things we believe to be the truth that are not the truth. A lot of us, we've all gotten some stuff wrong. And so, but that, like, you know, we've been having this discussion for, the plague is my least favorite subject to talk about, really, this year. And I've had a giant wall of people, most Trump supporters, who are like, it's a hoax. And on October 1st, the president and his wife tested positive. And then a bunch of people tested positive. And so, it, and anything they've put out of him has pretty much been like a 3 or 4 minute green screen. And Colleen, I'm sure you understand how good the deepfake AI technology is, to where they could probably make videos of him for the next 100 years that would look exactly like the real thing. And the thing that I really don't understand is, he has supposedly scheduled a new rally for Monday in Florida. And so that's kind of where we're at. Like, I don't know why he thinks rallies are such magic. I have not understood it all year. I don't know why he thinks rallies are like the greatest thing that's ever happened in the universe. And I don't know why, with 2-3 weeks left before the election, after, I mean, this is what I'm trying to tell, like, I'm not sure that like 20 senior officials in the Pentagon would have gone into quarantine if it were a hoax, and the head of the Air Force. But like I said, we'll see what happens next. See, but here's, looking forward, I'm hoping for a period of forgiveness and jubilee, where like everybody gets a second chance. That may be too idealistic, but like I said, we've got the economic issues. Even before the pandemic started, we've been dealing with Brexit since what, 2012, 2015? And if you'll notice, there have been no major debt issues since that started. Like, so you've got like trillions of dollars worth of student debt in a time where it's almost impossible to keep up the old way of higher education or even basic education. I don't know, man. I'm just saying that I'm keeping the faith, and that I can, through the Ghost of Christmas Past, October, the Ghost of Christmas Present, November, and the Ghost of Christmas Future, December. I think we're gonna keep our cool, and we're gonna keep progressing forward as a civilization. And that this has always been a transition of power from the baby boomers to the Gen Xers and the millennials and like everybody else. And like the same group has pretty much ruled. Thank you, Al. The same group has pretty much ruled since post World War II. Wrap your head around that. We've kind of had the same system for 80 years. And we got to the point where the system itself started to take away stuff from us. Like we invented rock and roll in the 40s and 50s, and then they took away rock and roll in the 2000s. And then they took away the space shuttle. And then they took away concerts and movies and churches and pubs. So by us, the longer we cling to the status quo of oil, war, divide and conquer, the more shit we lose. The more, and it's kind of that's how I view it. The people who believe that the pandemic is a hoax, they're so stuck in 2019 that like it's like they don't even believe in plagues or pandemics that existed or happened many times before now. It would be like not believing in a hurricane. It'd be like, oh, that hurricane's a hoax. But yeah, I believe God is in control. I don't. And my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, it is through their miracles and magic that I'm here with you now, talking live. And that the plague is just one of the many things that we're dealing with. And it's like I like to say that like we're all involved in these negotiations of what the future is going to be. Like, what are we going to make the future? Wagon breath. You guys are all great. That's a great. Is that a hippopotamus or a rhinoceros? I think it's a hippopotamus. So yeah, Capricorn represents status quo and government. And then, like I said, I definitely, as from the year 2000 to now, has always been kind of like a transfer of power from the baby boomers to us. And so they're going to figure out a way to transfer like 100,000 nukes, $1 quadrillion, all the gold, all the property. It's much like Alexander's Gordian knot, where like he cut the knot in a really cool way. Cosmic Hillbilly, I don't know if you know that, like, I'm sure not trusting the government will be popular in the future, but one of the things my dad always told me was trust no one. And that's why, like, I was, if you have a movie mind where you can imagine movies and shit, imagine being 10, having your Air Force dad being like, trust no one. You know? It's very like Jack Bowery. But that's been part of the weird fucking shit, is that I feel like half of the people in the United States, adults, they've been saying we don't trust government, but we love our president. That, like, somehow it's like Schrodinger's president, where, like, he is the president, but he's not in politics. And look, fame is like a drug. And that they've had control over who can be famous, who can be a rock star, who could, like, they've had lockdown on that shit for a while. But fame still is like one of the most powerful drugs out there. And so I was thinking about this the other night, like the three most famous fame people, singular people in American history, are like Elvis and Donald Trump. That, like, he somehow has maintained a level of fame. I mean, you can go back and watch his interview in 1888 with David Letterman. That he's worked with the media, he's worked within the media, he's kept his name in the media for 40 years. That there has not been a better master of how to get publicity than Donald Trump. And so that's why I think and so he manipulated the media for publicity for 40 years, and then turned around and was like, oh, you know, the people that I worked with for 40 years, they're all the enemy, all of them. And I still think people forget that he went from being a reality TV show creator and host to being president. And I haven't watched The Apprentice, but a lot of people say it was a really good reality TV show. But if you remember that we had, back in the day, everybody used to get television for free. All you had to do was get antennas and shit. And so everybody got TV for free, and they, you know, like I talk about, on Thursdays, you got Cheers, Seinfeld, Frasier, Cheers, Seinfeld, Frasier, Friends, and then like ER for free every Thursday for years. And it was free. And that shit was some of the best programming. And I would watch it with friends. I would watch it with my mom, my stepdad, my dad. Like, it was some of the best programming out there, bar none. And then they did away with the digital cable. They made cable boxes, but like during the 2000s is when, like, the reality television. It was like when they got rid of rock and roll, and they really they went after the screenwriters and stuff, to where reality TV would be king. And so Donald Trump deftly crafted how to surf the wave of staying famous in the 80s, and then staying famous in the 90s, staying famous in 2000 and 2010. Like, he has definitely been a king of fame since the 80s. And so it's been weird for me to watch the king of fame become president, but then like 45% of the people be like, oh, he's not a politician. Sure, yeah, he's the president, but he's not a politician. No, he's government, dude. You know, he's definitely been a president. He's definitely been a politician. And so, as I've said all year long, he is a master at self-promotion. And that was another, we're talking about what the fuck Defcon. That like one of the first October surprise before he got positive for COVID, it came out that he has $420 million due by 2022. And like they showed his loan sheets on all of his property. He owns tons of land. And that most of his stuff comes due in 2022, and he hadn't paid for a lot of it. Like he hadn't paid the principal down. He hadn't made many payments at all on most of his biggest properties. So yeah, it is totally all weird. And so, worst case scenario, we end up with some war of technology, Spanish Inquisition, super depopulation effect that gets super fucked up, and then like everybody dies and we rip the atmosphere off, and this was the sixth turn and we fucked it up. We better get it right next time, or we get it right. Rock and roll returns to Earth December 21st, 2020, and we start to progress forward away from a Star Wars world, which, remember, Star Wars was the 80s. That was Reagan's defense thing. So we segue away from Star Wars to Star Trek, where the planet just stops fighting each other. Where at some point in the Star Trek mythology, they all give up fighting each other in local, state, national conflicts to unite, feed everybody, keep the power on. And I'm trying not to say anything controversial, but like, I'm pretty sure the 83 people that are here, like 70 of y'all should be aware that they definitely have much better technologies available than just petroleum combustion. I mean, JFK talked about the breakneck pace of what we had done with our space programs and how we'd gotten probes out to almost every planet in a very short amount of time. And it was like, some people want to stop this. And they did. And we've been stuck in the mud. We've been like a stick in the mud. So yeah, seasons change. And I've always felt that seasons were going to change. And I felt like if we didn't unite by 2017, when I thought we had our best chance, that 2020 was going to force us to change. And cheers. Why am I drinking water? Someone asked. Well, on the 1st October, my friends Autumn and Corey, Obi-Wan Jr., came and picked me up. And they were like, hey, we're going to take you to the tunnels under Houston. And so me and them two, who have both been taking the virus very seriously all year, we ran around Houston. And so I walked like over 7.5 miles. And I've pretty much been stuck in this foxhole since February. And then, like 2 days after that, I went and walked like 3.5 miles. Yesterday or the day before yesterday, I walked 7.5 miles again. Today I walked 5 miles. That I was telling you guys that, like, look, I understood the power of my magnetic field in December of 2017. And so part of me getting fat, staying fat, was just so I didn't draw in any more women that would fuck my game up. And that by being very overweight, it's basically my version of tying myself to the mast of the ship. Where by being overweight, I can then hear the siren song and dream of the siren ladies without putting myself in danger. And technically, I feel like during that time, from 2017 till now, I've definitely watched other guys who didn't tie themselves to the mast, and I would guess kind of smash their ships against the rocks. And so, with like 2 days ago being 71 days before the December 21st, 2020 point, that I would like to be in decent shape December 21st. Because my birthday is the 19th. The Jupiter and Saturn are entering Aquarius on the 20th. And then they're conjuncting in the sky together on the 21st. And so Saturn entered Sagittarius in 2015. So like I've been in this Saturn Pluto energy for 5.5 years. And that it has been very rough, but I've learned a lot, and I definitely think I'm a better planetary defense commander now than I was then. And so that I had a feeling that my time of lockdown and restriction would end in December. And so I think my time in the foxhole is coming to an end. And even the time that like I'm stuck at 55,000 subscribers and my videos can't break over 1,000 views, oh, that's not what matters. I'm just saying that, or me getting to hang out with people or put together cool teams or be in a rock and roll band or make movies or any of the rewards that might have come from normal, badass hard work that I was denied for 5 years, they may start to show up again in December. And I've been kind of aware of that like the 2015 through 2020 run for me would fucking suck, and it felt like I was in hell, and I would feel like that I would just take 1,000 beatings and lose everything, but that like 2020 would be when shit would start to get good. And so that's why like I'm now exercising, and I'm now starting to drink water, and soon I will order groceries and start to eat well, because I want to be, the whole year that I've been working, I basically said, all right, I'm going to have a shit ton of fun from my mom's birthday on December 7th to the end of the year. I'm going to work my ass off, and then my party time, celebration time, I hope will be from then, December 7th. And we're in October. And I think I've done a great job during hurricane season. I think I've done a great job through the whole year. And that I believe that all the restrictions, or most of the restrictions that have been on me for 5 years, are going to start to fall away. Thank you, Jesus. And so I'm doing what I can to get ready. And I think we're going to have a badass music festival with astronomy and astrology and cool video presentations and rock and roll and good food in Alpine, Texas in 2022. And then hopefully that'll turn into a yearly thing. So, like I've been saying, that it feels like we've been in the old system from like 1980 to 2020. And so 2021 will really kick off the like new system, the next 40 years or how many years, the future. They're like, we will get to build cities. We will get to build infrastructure. We will get to do cool things again. Rock and roll will return. There will be a great, like, it's almost like for like 2 or 3 years, the whole world will be going back to college to learn how to help build the world that we want to build 2 or 3 years from now. We can learn from all the mistakes we've ever made throughout history. That teamwork built our cities. Teamwork crafted our orchestras. That we have done great things as human beings. And the human spirit is grand. And that up until social media, 1999, humanity wasn't really at super war with itself. That we saw the promise of the future in the 80s and the 90s, and then we had to adjust to the digital age. And so, and this just goes back to the base that, like, look, man, it is like a generational transfer of the baby boomers to Gen X. And most Gen X people I know are super cool. And then I think a lot of people are going to be surprised at how good, loving, caring, smart, strong, stern that my generation is. And so, like, that's kind of the weird thing about Trump for me, is that the overriding image, like the whole time he was there, but especially in 2020, is that, and he's pretty much admitted, that, like, he just wants to project strength. That he is big on projecting strength all the time. And well, in the 80s, when they were showing us movies like Rambo wasn't in his 70s. That, like, I think what JFK was in his 40s. That, like, the 70s is not necessarily the best age to be trying to portray strength to everyone. If that makes any sense. I may not be saying this as properly because most grandmothers are the strongest people on the planet. So I'm just trying to say that, like, I think what we're witnessing is, like I said, the transfer from the Biden/Trump generation to us. And it will still be like our responsibility on how to handle, like, if you've been following economics like I have since like the 90s, we have been discussing what to do with the retiring baby boomers, Social Security, the safety net, how to handle it. And it has always been a major fucking issue, a major problem. And that I, for one, respect and adore my elders and understand all they've done to get us here now. And that the world is still together, and so that I want them all, regardless of how much money they made, to have a good rest of their life. And it's kind of like we figure out how to take care of our elders now, so we will have a system that will take care of us if we make it to be elderly. And so I often joke that, like, what I've inherited at 48 is like $2 quadrillion in debt, a country that's at a cold civil war, one of the most grotesque healthcare systems you could ever wish upon mankind, a prison for profit system, and some type of belief system to where stock markets are the king of fucking everything. But this is like what I inherited, what we inherited. It's like, all right, do your best. And so, like I said, I still think that the very best among us will figure it out. And for whatever reason, for 20 fucking years, they have pumped doom and gloom, and humanity has no chance whatsoever. There will be no future. It is only going to be doom and death. Well, man, like I said, I don't want to get cocky, bro. But if I've survived the last decade, then I think we're going to make it through this. I mean, I gotta say, like, as a Texan, like, it's just not a Texas thing to be like, we have no chance against Satan. Or like, we have no chance, like, the Illuminati are gonna fucking destroy us. These aren't like Texan things. They're like, I mean, it's just like, it's not a natural state that we are gonna lose to bad guys. That, like, hope is not lost. Like, as long as Texas is standing, it was like, I saw a sign as I went out for my walk that said Willie Nelson for president. And that, like, Texas is like the beacon of hope in the middle of America, which is still the beacon of hope. Although we're crazy and having dysfunctional problems. I'm just saying that I am not super doomy, though I think shit is going to get fucking super weird and turnt, and bad guys definitely still have area to fuck shit up. But, you know, it's kind of like the whole Nibiru. We heard Nibiru was going to fucking kill us every day from like 2004 to like 2012, and then it was like 2012 is going to destroy us. It was like Y2K first. And when I was talking to Obi-Wan Jr. in Autumn the other day, that, like, because we were talking about how Joel Osteen, at one point in time, he was like, I'm going to buy this basketball stadium and turn it into a church. And I'd been to that basketball stadium, and I thought that was weird. I'm not judging Joel. But I just can't imagine Jesus giving a sermon on the mount from a basketball stadium, you know? Anywho, but I would like you guys to try to remember when they tried to brainwash y'all, they tried to brainwash y'all with New World Order wrestling and the mega church at the same time that they turned like giant malls into churches. The mega church, at that exact time, same time, right before the election of 2000, that was when they really started pushing New World Order, Illuminati, Agenda 20. Like, that was when the bumper sticker parade came out. And so they had these books called Left Behind. And Left Behind was basically about how the tribulation was going to start in 2000, and that only Kirk Cameron, like, everybody's going to be raptured up, and Kirk Cameron was going to save the day somehow. I don't know, but it started this, the same time that they started the mega church, that like the new movie narrative that wasn't in the movies was that like everybody gear up for Reagan's 80s apocalypse end times. And I don't know how many people in the truth community, so many people are always selling end times, dude. Like, and there's not a single fucking point in there that Jesus tells me like, give up, Satan's gonna win, you got no hope, stop trying to improve your town. Anyway, what I'm saying that like, that whole doom narrative really started at the end of the 90s, telling everyone like the end times were here, the rapture was coming. And I don't mean to disrespect people who believe in the rapture. I'm not into it. I get that there are 2 or 3 sentences that Jesus did not say that point to like one man in the field being teleported to the USS Enterprise, and one dude was like, sorry, fucker, you gotta stay behind, sinner. Well, that's not my thing. And so I'm just saying that like with the institution of the megachurch, that was like how the Y2K doom wave in, where like we've been being brainwashed to believe that like doom was the only option. And now that we've made it, it seems like we're gonna make it through. I guess to me, like, and like Saturn has like a 29-year orbit, right? And so, yeah, you could even go back 60 years. So that like, whether it be a 60-year generational thing or a 30-year generational thing, that it's finally going to be Generation X's turn. And we are like the X-Men. Sure, Apocalypse is around, but he ain't going to win. Sure, Thanos is around, but he's not going to kill half of us. I don't want to get too cocky, but it definitely just seems like a lot of people have sold themselves on some really bad narratives. And that I prep for Jesus' return by being me every single day. And at no point in time did I bet my future on the fact that like Jesus would return a week from now or like 3 months from now. I mean, God even says no man knows the time of the hour. And so that like, it's like I look at it like, by being in survival mode for 20 years, nobody's really made long, solid plans, medium or long term, because we've all been worried the world's gonna fucking end. Nibiru's gonna kill us, virus gonna kill us, Mayans gonna kill us, Illuminati's gonna kill us, Bill Gates is gonna kill us, Elon Musk is gonna turn us into pigs and microchip us all. And that there are a lot of good people standing on the wall. And a lot of us have gotten shit wrong. But like I said, I've lost a dad and a stepdad. I love my grandma Virginia, my grandma Evie, Nana, Pawpaw. I don't know, I've lost, like I was thinking about one of my favorite horses, Onkaman. He was a black stallion. He was bred from the actual black stallion that was in the movie. I used to love hanging out in a field, drinking beer and smoking weed, and then just hanging out, just standing by him or walking around. whether it be raining or snowing or... I have a good connection with animals, always have. And that the spirits of the dead, whether you call them ghosts, whether they be human or animals, that I believe that the spirits are real. Animal spirits are real. And so I believe that it is humans' duty to live in peace and prosperity with the animals and Mother Nature around us. And no one could kick our ass faster than Mother Nature, the sun, or the solar system. And so just like I believe we manifested the plague, I mean, like from our actions of 2012 to 2020, we manifested it. Like, let's just say that whatever information I got early on was correct, that like somebody tried to steal it out of a lab in China, and that someone, another group. And so the virus got out when they tried to steal a fucking virus. I mean, that's just kind of saying that like the hubris and the arrogance and then like stacking bad decisions upon bad decisions just shows like if we would have united before 2020, we definitely would not have had people trying to steal a virus out of a laboratory. That wouldn't happen. Which is also why, knowing the patterns of viruses, I don't trust the winter. That like I've always said, look, man, if you go back through the last 10 plagues that have happened, it usually lasts about 2 to 3 years, and the first winter wave is always the worst. And if you have been watching, paying attention, whether it started in Wuhan or what happened in New York or what happened in Italy, like it goes in weird spiky waves. And so we are definitely watching, you know, the winter is supposed to be the first spiky wave. And so it's going to be spooky. And it's so crazy that like I don't know, we aren't working together on anything. And so like I've been doing the best I could to put out great information all year. And so I stressed as much as possible the September 27th through October 16th, 17th period Like, I almost begged everybody to play defense, to be smart. I did it for fucking months on end. And so I can't control anybody, and it's not my job to control you or try and like overpower your belief system. And technically, I predicted that if he didn't, multiple times, that if he didn't, that like throwing rallies when Saturn retrograded back to Pluto almost, and then went forward. Karma went fucking direct on the 27th. That like it was just, and the astrology has almost been fucking instant this year. That it was just not a wise idea. And I said multiple times that if he didn't change his ways of being very nonchalant about the virus, he would probably be infected in October. So I warned and I warned and I warned and I warned. And now we're here. Defcon, what the fuck, man? And so I don't, like I said, I don't. And the same people that have been telling me it's a hoax all year, and at the same time I was like, what? October's the month. It was like when I told everybody lockdowns are coming back in March, or lockdowns are coming in March. I think they're coming in October. And especially if something happens to him, I can guarantee you they'll bring lockdowns back, and they will be stricter than before. So I'm just doing what I can to get everybody mentally prepared for a worst case scenario. This is by Tim O'Brien, October 5th. A humbling Herman Cain coronavirus timeline. 6/24 attends Trump rally maskless. 7/2 tests positive for COVID. 7/10 says he's improving. 7/15 his doctors seem happy. 7/27 says he's really getting better. 7/30 he dies. And so we had a full moon on the 1st of October. We are going to have a full moon on the 31st of October. We have 2 full moons this month. And so the first was that really fucking weird day where they put out the list of like, not only did he get it, from a very small gathering where a bunch of people got together, outdoors and then indoors. Cheers. I end up repeating myself. that I've told y'all, I think I got it last September. I think I got it last October. And it didn't go away until like November. I had it for like a month. I keep meaning to go back and watch my videos because I talked about it quite a bit. And the thing that scared the shit out of me was I couldn't hear out of like both ears for like 2 or 3 days. I could hear rumblings, but I couldn't hear shit. And it was like the weirdest fucking virus flu bug I'd ever had in my entire life. I went 3 years without being sick. No flu, no cold, no nothing. And then wham, I got hit with some of the worst shit. And it was totally different than a flu. I definitely had periods where I had trouble breathing. And I have told you guys that like my energy levels a year later still have not returned. And so most of the reports I read on people that get it, not only does it mess with your breathing, but it totally fucks up your energy levels. And so the thing I miss the most as a 48-year-old man is that like even then, before I had almost boundless bouts of energy. And energy ties directly into your ability to concentrate. And so I felt like I got it. I wouldn't wish it upon anyone else. I still feel like a year later, I'm still dealing with it. I mean, if you go back to look at my weight gain, I've probably gained 30 pounds since last October only because my energy levels have been fucking shit. I mean, like I said, I've started walking now and I'm going to start eating right, but I believe in it. I believe that is real. I believe you don't want it. Your family doesn't want to get it. But that is going to be a great, that we can't even agree on anything these days. It doesn't seem like. But like I said, for the people out there who insist that it is deception and a hoax, at this point, I don't think anything's ever going to change your mind. And therein lies the hard part. And it's like, I invite you to go do research on the Spanish flu of 1918 or the plague in Russia in 1771 or the plague of 1666 or the plague that killed Nostradamus' entire family and left him alive. I definitely don't think he would have wrote all of his presages and shit if that hadn't happened. Or like 13th, like it comes around like clockwork, almost like not. And so that's why I just don't understand. Even the Bible talks about fucking plagues. So I still have a hard time understanding why people are so reluctant to understand that it's real. And I'm not saying that governments aren't abusing it. I'm not saying that corporations aren't abusing it. They are. Absolutely. Without a doubt. And like I said, Yeah, 50 million died in the Spanish flu. And it's it has been my belief that they're playing down the amount of people that have actually died. I can't even count the times when I would watch the charts every day for Florida where they'd post like 300 people died or 400 people died, and then they'd reduce it to like 150. It happened like 10 times. But as I've said before, we will know more about the overall situation, especially with the virus, through October. I'm sticking with everything that I've said all year. And so out of the big list of people that got positive, don't be surprised if we lose some of them. And I've prayed for the president's health a couple times. So, I don't even. And so it's like, okay, so quick question. So who do you guys think is going to be president in 2024? I think hopefully we'll have a new system by then. Okay, but let's say just hypothetically, whether it be Biden, we lose Biden or Trump or both before October 4th, what happens then? This is a question I've asked all year. And so, if it were a hoax, I don't think I would be here with you in the middle of October or October 9th. And I don't, that's what's so fucking crazy about all this is just, that if there are big October surprises and we lose one or both of the candidates before the election, things will be very chaotic. And at this point, I would say that, like, but I think that's a possibility. I've said there's like the whole year, I think there's like 33% chance we're not going to have an election as we understand it. And so if you were to have a major disruption like that, from my standpoint, it's just been so fucking weird. Like trying to have an adult conversation with adults in 2020 on a planetary defense commander level. Yeah, and I definitely think someone should puff pass. I definitely think they should legalize marijuana, like legalize the peace pipe. Like I've said many times, I'm 100% for peace, and that Jesus Christ was the Prince of Peace, and that I cannot think of a single reason why we should not work together as one Earth family. That letting the free markets decide everything is a scary proposition. That like you have to stand up and be the leader of your town, of your community, of your state, of your nation, and recognize that whether it be the prison system or your healthcare system, letting the free market or your fire department, letting the free markets decide everything is not a good idea. That humans have to take care of each other. We are all in this together. And that the only way we've made it work so well for so long is through teamwork. Someone said sometimes the hordes have to be told no. Well, I think we can all agree that like cannibalism, molesting children, murder, rape, those are all things that should not happen. And that I would guess 97% of people agree that like those are bad things. And so we have to find the basic common ground that we can all agree on as we start moving forward. And it's so strange how we go back to the year 2000, because like most of the discussions we're having now are like the year 2000, because like this whole discussion has been about like abortion. Like I don't have kids, I don't have a girlfriend, I haven't had sex in years, but a large amount of energetic capital. I mean, it was like one of the pivotal issues in the Gore versus Bush election was abortion. Like if you go back and look, and that it has been a knockdown, drag out brawl over abortion for 20 years. And that I've always been in like a weird position of like, hey, why don't both sides work together to do what we can to avoid unwanted pregnancies? And somehow that's like the most insulting thing you can ever say. To imply that humans are responsible for their own actions, and that we could work together to reduce the amount of babies that people have when they didn't want to have them, or what pregnancies. And that it feels that like both the right and the left kind of agree that humans are just like animals, and that when they want to fuck each other as consensual adults, there's nothing you can do to stop it. And most time, like, and so that like very little time. I don't want to say very little because I don't have kids and I don't want to be a parent talking, but just the idea that, I mean, like, I remember there were multiple times where my mother said, hey, at 15, my mom said, if you get a girl pregnant before you were ready to get a girl pregnant, I will super glue your pecker to your fucking leg and you will never have sex again. I mean, that's pretty severe. That's like a tough love tactic. But I felt like, and I had 3 sisters growing up, and so I'd always felt a large responsibility to not, and I've always wanted to have children. So having pregnancy, wanted it seriously when it does happen, if it does happen. I don't know. I'm just saying that, like, we are still stuck in like the year 2000. And somehow we are, the debate about abortion or even race, even though it has been discussed and like financially backed, like billions of dollars have been poured into both, and that somehow the discussion on both has not improved and has gotten worse, in my opinion. But I guess that's part of the thing, is that, like, it has been very American over the last 20 years that to not accept responsibility. Well, I like accepting responsibility, or I wouldn't be here as Planetary Defense Commander. And from what I've heard, having kids is like from the majority of people I've talked to, friends, having kids is one of the greatest things you can do. That, like, having children is very rewarding. But I would like everyone to acknowledge that since the industrial age, I don't want to totally blame the Catholic Church, but all the governments have, there has been a large underlying support for population explosion. And that although governments love to argue about abortion and shit, that for the last 100 or 200 years, they have been trying to make as many babies as possible. That they have loved a population explosion. I mean, come on. Catholic Church telling people that, like, do not have sex until you're married. And if you are going to have sex outside of marriage, don't use any type of, like, condoms and shit. That's just crazy, man. I don't know. It's all crazy. Now I'm super crazy. Because it's just, fuck. That's part of my thing. I like it when shit improves. I like it when we have a problem and we solve it. Someone said the Vatican has so much loot, it's not funny. Yeah. And when I did that weird research binge I did a couple weeks ago, I've never really liked gold, man. I just get a weird vibe off gold. Like, gold has a crazy fucking vibration. And so, and usually the people who are super attracted to gold, they're not usually the people I want to hang out with. No offense if you're a gold bug. And so if you're just joining us on so the Aztecs were like the rulers of Central and South America, partially, in like the 1500s-ish. And then the Europeans came over and wiped them the fuck out. And they wiped out North Americans, Central Americans, South Americans. 30 million of them, they knocked them down to 2 million. Now some super crazy shit. And they partially wiped out the Aztecs with the plague. And the Indians. They put plague in a blanket. Smallpox. But the Aztecs loved gold, but that they would craft it into like artworks and they put it in everything. And that when the Spanish came over, they melted down all their fucking artworks and put all the gold into gold bars. That blows my mind. And then the Aztecs came up with the wheel. They just weren't impressed by it. They were like, we prefer to build bridges. The Aztecs were like Louisiana. They were swamp people, if I understand correctly. And so they enjoyed building their city like in the lake swamp. Like, they were very one with the trees, the reeds, the snakes, like their water canals. And human sacrifice. But I'm saying that, like, they stumbled onto the wheel and its magic power in the 1500s. And they didn't do anything with it. They're like, let's stick it in some art. And I guess as a Christian, that's the thing, is that like the Aztecs used to be like, look, we got to sacrifice 30,000 people or it ain't going to rain. We got to sacrifice 10,000 of the most beautiful virgins or we're not going to have an eclipse. We got to sacrifice 15 people or the sun won't come out tomorrow. And I think the overriding message of Jesus was like, one of them was, y'all gotta stop sacrificing people. And so like that is where we're at. They're like, whatever weird fucking ancient, dark, spooky blood magic demon spirits that have always been trying to interweave that humans sacrifice other humans. That shit is still kind of around, and that shit has not been defeated from Earth yet. And that, like, looking into ritual, it's like, that's all old magic. And just like with cosmic rays in the sun and the universe in 5D, 7D, this is the year 2000. It's like new magic. And the new magic comes from us evolving and working together as a family. Like, we are smart enough to know we don't have to sacrifice each other, that we can live and coexist in harmony. And so, no, I don't want to sacrifice the left. I don't want to sacrifice the right. I don't want to sacrifice anybody. But I definitely think we are whatever Capricornian 1980 to now gunk. Like, that kind of vibe is definitely still around. And it is weird that we went from a 1500, like, sacrificing people. And remember, the Catholic Church was sacrificing people in the Spanish Inquisition. Hundreds of thousands of people. Like, these people are witches. Hundreds of thousands. And that we stopped saying, all right, we're no longer going to require human sacrifice, but we're now going to start having world wars. And so we've got rid of not having basic rights. We've given ourselves basic human rights. That no human being has the right to sacrifice another human being. But then, after we got rid of slavery, but then we entered into World War. So, like, when we founded America, we're like, all right, basic human rights, basic American rights. And then that led from that, we then got rid of slavery, but we started a credit debt system, and then we started a world war system in 1914. And so we've still been in, it's through the war system, we've still been in a passive aggressive sacrificing each other, whether it be the World War I, World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam War, like, all the... But it seems like we're making progress. And in this progress, if the 1900s were about world wars, then the 2000s are about ending Earth wars. Fitzroy and I hung out to talk about Van Halen and Eddie last night. And we both admit he has a very conservative spirit. I'm a very middle ground spirit. That, like, one of the greatest causes of conflict is the fact that at some point they drew a bunch of invisible lines over the broken Pangea and were like, all right, this is England, this is France, this is Turkey, this is Russia, this is Japan, this is Taiwan, this is China, this is Guatemala. Like, the idea that at some point the people ran around and drew invisible lines of ownership across the world. That in itself is like the greatest tool of division and has been a tool of government. Or like, hey, we are North Korea. We got to protect you from South Korea and everybody else. Or we're America. But that has been one of the most absurd things about our whole caveman system. Is that the invisible lines they drew hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, they are still tripping us up today. And in the atomic age, post-atomic weapon power, like, yeah, I get that they want to put off peace as long as they can, but that's where we're at. It's like the status quo that has existed for 100 years. It wants to stay in power and keep up its system as long as it can. And so it's like literally staying in 2019. And that we watched large chunks of our government spend the whole year pretending that we were still in 2019. And so wrapping this video up, without a doubt, it would definitely seem like the baby boomers have, and I'm not pointing the finger at the baby boomers, we're talking about the people who are like, I want to be president of the United States. I want to be Congress. I want to be the government power players. They, in their life, when they chose what they could do, they wanted to be president, Congress, Senate in 2020. And that's so when the world changed in 2020, they were all used to doing it the 1980 to now way. I mean, like, we have not adjusted or adapted from a presidential or Congress point of view at all. And so it's just like, the old ways aren't working. And this whole year has been, without no disrespect, but it feels like it's been watching old dogs try and figure out new tricks. That like our entire system of government is still the system of government from the fucking 80s. I mean, let me tell you something. As Planetary Defense Commander, look, you have an Army, you have a Navy, you have Air Force, you have Marines, you got a Coast Guard, you got National Guard, you got police officers, you got FBI, you got CIA, you got ATF, you got IRS, you got Postal Service. The public has no digital defender. There is no internet force. that is making sure that someone isn't hacking into your PayPal or hacking into your YouTube channel or stealing all your views or protecting your information or making sure that the stock market information you're getting is like, and that the bots in the last 10 years have definitely been one of the biggest political tool weapons out there. And that if everyone had a digital identification, meaning that everything you posted, wherever you posted it, would be tracked back to you, this would be a totally different world. And so what I'm just saying is that and I don't know if you guys heard, but data became the new oil. So I guess that's my main point, is that for the Aquarius age, the people have to figure out how to represent themselves. And that looking to a system that is over 200 years old, we're seeing holes in it fucking everywhere. And that I definitely believe Earth would be better off with a human Bill of Rights. I definitely believe we should feed every human being every single day. And that, like, let's have the fucking abortion debate after everyone is fed. You know, the fact that the biggest killer on Earth is diarrhea. Like, we've made excuses for 20 years. And we're getting to the point where excuses aren't going to cut it anymore. And I don't think force or money are going to be able to solve. In the past, force or money would solve most problems. And I think we're beyond that. I definitely think, look, man, I definitely think we have some earth changes that are coming our way, and that no matter how we craft the magma or the petroleum or the natural gas, we're gonna have major earthquake, volcano, flood, like magnetic pole. Like, we're gonna be undergoing some earth-changing Edgar Cayce map shit probably in the next 20 to 30 years. And this has been like another conversation that like the adulty, that like it's there on the table. And people have definitely been front running that in real estate fashion. It's kind of like, just like I predicted that the West Coast was going to be totally fucking on fire this year. I'm sure I'm not the only one who could have figured that shit out. And so, you know, like, here we are, Defcon, WTF, learning, figuring out, are we going to adapt? But I recognize this is October 9th. And so some of the same people that have been saying the same things since January or February or March, or they're still saying the same things now. And so I would guess over the next 2 months, it will become more apparent to people that in the new world, we have to figure out a way to work together. and that humans have to figure out a way to represent themselves. And that all year long, humans should have been able to figure out that instead of protesting or instead of supporting rallies, they should have known that, like I said, Israel just went back into lockdown. Russia just went back into lockdown. France just went back into lockdown. Like, every country is dealing with it in different ways, and that our government will, in a situation like this, is not always going to represent the people first. Like, it's the donors and the corporations and that the 30 million people that got laid off, they are going to need help. Like, everybody's going to need some help over the next 30 years. One thing that is not even being discussed, like the amount of fiscal burden that this has put on hospitals, on medical bills, on like, if you just got the coronavirus and then you got your like $32,000 bill, you know, like, they haven't come and taken your house in this year. But I'm saying that, like, the medical just, and even like I'm saying, as Generation X, we've always known that the baby boomers will be retiring in mass, and that the Social Security system was technically like a fucking Ponzi scheme, and that no one has really worked out what to do when you get to the point that all the people are retiring in mass for the baby boomers, that the monetary system does not support them and doesn't support that. And so I felt like it's always been our responsibility to figure out how to save the day and what to do with the baby boomers in their golden years. And so, yeah. I recognize that my views have not been entirely popular. It's like the tax law. They're like 100,000 tax laws. It's just like for laws in a city or town, like, there are thousands. Yeah, how many times have you been to jail because, like, your inspection sticker was out and then you didn't pay it on time? I've been because of that. I'm just saying it seems like it would be smart to get back to the basics of civilization, especially when everyone is so judgmental of everyone else. If, like, half the people on the right want to throw the other half into the volcano, or the people on the left want to throw the people on the right out in the volcano, and that, like, I don't even know necessarily what the big overall, like, when you're demonizing someone, like, they're fucking pure evil. Well, yeah, dude, like, if you're eating human beings or you're molesting children or you're raping women, I can agree those people are evil, and we should definitely separate those people from civilization and keep them from harming people. But, like, anything when we get past the big ones is pretty fucking, gets into a very gray area. And so I'm just saying that, like, I'm super confused. Like why China and India hate each other, or that, like, at this point, why Democrats and Republicans just hate, like, think the other is Satan's spawn. Like, both sides think the other side is, like, the evilest thing ever. You know what I'm saying? Man, I've not been as eloquent vocally and verbally as I want to. Dang you, Mercury going retrograde in like a week. But I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, do you guys even know why you're at war with each other? Do you guys even know why you hate each other? Because I don't want to. I don't know, man. But just like the divide and conquer game has diminishing returns, I mean, you can't just do that shit forever. It's kind of like the crazy news cycle. Like, even that crazy news cycle has diminishing returns. And that the amount that people were attacking each other in September, it is much lower in October. I mean, there's like, I don't know if you can see it or feel it or you would admit it, but there's a collective humbleness that permeates through all of us in October. Because we are at Defcon WTF. And so it's like, it's become a reality show. And so there were those of us who were like, hey, we're going to take the virus seriously. That means for a couple months, I'm going to not leave the house, going to wear a mask, wash my hands. And then you had the group who was like, no, we're okay. We are going to be strong and we're not going to let this virus change our life. And as I've said, October is going to be the month. Of seeing how that works. They've opened Florida wide up. The president continued rallies up to the point that he got infected. I mean, Congress hasn't met in person in forever. And so if like Congress isn't going to meet in person, you should take that as a signal. And there was a whole thing where they were coming out with lists of who was getting infected, and then they came out with some order or something, and they were like, please stop informing the media who all is positive. That shit happened. And like I said, it's just like, as a Norse Christian Jedi, I respect your right to whatever your relationship or belief is in God. It's the same thing with your life in 2020, with the virus or everything else. I respect your right as an individual to believe whatever you want to believe. But with Pluto, Saturn, and Eris being the like, if you were going to a fucking party, you were going to a party with Pluto, Saturn, and Eris. And you could be like, hey, I'm a party like I normally do when Eris, Pluto, and Saturn aren't here. You know? That we're gonna, everybody's been spending the last 8 years working towards 2020. And so we are in the big karma dance of the 27th through the 16th-ish, 25th, that I've been talking about. When I said that, like, October would probably be the most dangerous, weirdest, possibly chaotic month. And so congratulations for making it this far. And that, so in conclusion, in this video, I mean, if we all, including myself, want to assume that maybe I got everything wrong, or maybe, you know, that how do I put this? That, like, October is definitely the most whatever's going to happen is happening month. And so, like, on a message stance, I get a D minus. Somebody gave me a D minus. Oh. James said, grace without works is dead. And so I have grace. And I hope that my works over the 8 years, and including this year, 2020, will carry me through Halloween, into Thanksgiving, my birthday, the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, Jupiter-Saturn entering Aquarius after 5 years of fucking Capricorn, into Christmas, and an amazing decade. And so definitely keep your cool. And I don't mean this disrespectfully in any way, shape, or form, but I definitely see connections to, like, JFK was considered Camelot, and him and his brother died close together. And so, and to me, Trump has represented kind of a modern American post-80s Camelot. Like I said, he's been the most famous dude on the planet since the 80s. He's like been the king of fame since the 80s. And now as the king, he's been our president. And that when his brother died like 7 weeks ago, who I'd never heard of, that totally disrupted my, like, energy field. And it felt like Bobby JFK, like Bobby and his brother, John. And so when we were looking at just like signs and fucking trends, that, like, people were like, well, the virus is a hoax. Well, you know, did you believe that his brother's death was a hoax? Did he have a brother? Why have we never heard of him? So you can, like, call everything a hoax if you want to, if that's just like part of your dealing with shit. But that, like, I never heard of the guy before, which is weird because you hear about everyone all the time in their family. And so, and then he was just dead. And then they had a funeral at the White House. So I assumed that it was real, and energetically it felt like it was real. And that I've been super creeped out since then. And that since October, I've been super creeped out, freaked out. So yeah, let's make it through October. And I don't know what the fuck is going to happen next. But going and getting the virus head on may not be the best strategy. But if it is, we'll find out. Maybe he'll come bouncing back and he'll hold 2-hour press conferences again. Maybe he will win the election. But just as 2020 was a jarring change, I think in December, the change from Capricorn to Aquarius is going to be a jarring change, but for the better. And that's been my stance for a couple years now. That like rock and roll will return to Earth in December. And so if there's one thing I've been focused on, like, well, that will help kick off the Renaissance and get us back on track. You know? I'm just glad you guys are here with me. And I definitely hope that the trolls enjoyed their 5 years of total fucking dominance. Where like gaslighting and trolling and botting, that it's weird. It's almost like the seasons change and like different types of people, different types of groups come into power at like different times. In like Breakfast Club, it's like the jocks, the nerds, the queens, the geeks, the weirdos. And so that like each group has like, all right, now Lady Luck is shining on you. And that you have the power to make whatever the fuck your dreams come true. And so definitely during the last 5 years, and technically it happened with Obama as well, that like we spent a decade of 2010 to 2020 where we watched lots of people. What they want to do is they want to talk about politicians. They want to talk about politics. They wanted to upset the people who didn't agree with them. And so we have been besieged with politics and all the trolling and arguing that comes along with that for a decade. And that shit is almost over. So like the trolls ruling the last five years, it was like we had Grumpy the cat, and then we had that fucking frog, dude. I was like, what are the spirit animals of America? Well, we had Grumpy Cat for a while, and that wasn't that great, but it was better than whatever that fucking frog was. Frogman or whatever. Frog and his great friend. And so I'm just hoping that whatever spirit animal we get next is going to be badass. And you can kind of tell that the people who have enjoyed being in the spotlight for the last 5 years, they can see that they are probably not going to be in the spotlight, the main spotlight for the next 5 years. And so they're kind of freaking out that their big day on the stage is almost over. And I will tell you this, dude. If we get a worst case scenario, and if you get people at the highest levels of our government who die from this virus between now and the end of the year, they're going to crack the fuck down on people who call it a hoax. I don't have any say in it. But I'm saying, if like the people who tried to sell that it was a hoax, if somehow like we do lose the president to the virus, then they're probably going to crack down on people who are telling everyone it's a fucking hoax. That, like, if you spent the year, and I'm just talking like people who are in the media or YouTube or whatever, like if you spent the year telling everyone that it was a hoax, and then the president dies from the virus, things would probably be different after that. Who knows? Hopefully he will survive. Hopefully we will not lose a bunch of people in the Senate. Hopefully we won't lose a bunch of people in the Pentagon. Oh my God. You know what I'm saying? Oh, not a good position. How's this? But it's weird when people talk about like the globalist agenda or Agenda 2030. I mean, there's no doubt that people and groups have agendas. But what I don't understand is why would you ever give your power to them? That there are a lot of groups competing for what the future may be. And so you can either be handing out pamphlets and brochures to someone's crappy agenda. Probably wouldn't work. May have sounded great on paper. You know what I'm saying? That there's a giant free will aspect to this. And I'm definitely not at the point that I'm going to turn over what effects I can have on our future to some other person or some other group. Especially if it's negative. And it seems like the people who are always like, if there is some giant group that is in control, it should be clear to you that from 1900 to now, that group has honored and valued family. That group has operated with honor. That group would have kept civilization progressing forward even 35 years in a post-atomic age. And that I would probably have to give that group a B+. And so it just doesn't make sense to be like, well, for 115 years, 120 years, they had a group that respected family, that recognized they are connected beyond invisible lines. and that civilization did not collapse on their great-grandfather's watch, their grandfather's watch, their watch. And so the idea that at some point, I don't know, somehow magically some super evil human-hating group sweeps in and then like kills everybody or tortures everybody or throws everybody in the fucking volcano, that doesn't seem to make logical sense to me. They're like, dude, we've kept it together. But social media has kind of put us into a zone where like we've been convincing each other why we can't keep it together. They're like, this is the end. This is doom. Like, Satan has some fucking plan that we can't beat. So we have to have like an endless tribulation period forever. Like, shit definitely has to suck. Civilization can no longer continue to progress forward. We cannot solve problems. We cannot make things better. You know? Oh, and that's what I believe there are definitely good guys out there. Someone said that is the definition of Satan. Technically, the word Satan, I think, is a Greek word that means nemesis. So Satan is like a generic term, almost like demon or devil. And so like Lucifer or Beelzebub or any of the names, those are more names instead of just a generic term. But someone the other day defined Satan as like anyone who tries to take hope away from others. I was like, hey, that rings true. Anyone who tries to make you look past all the miracles and good things in life. Yeah, someone who is trying to keep you in a state of fear, doubt, confusion, anger. Jesus said, judge a tree by its fruit. And that is why I definitely believe in peace, and that peace is godly. Because the greatest people I've ever known were very cool, very chill people and spirits. And that if you can make other people feel that same level of comfort and appreciation for the simple and finer things in life, like is there anything better than good company? Someone said God does not have people in a state of fear. I totally agree. But this is why I've been saying for 8 years of Thor News that our economy has been like an oil war, divide and conquer economy. And that Generation X and the millennials, like, that's not the way of the future. And so the next month is definitely going to be fucking crazy. And I definitely think the status quo is much bigger than one man is going to do what it can to maintain a war and divide and conquer economy. But it seems like we've hit like diminishing returns on almost everything. So thank you for hanging out with me, guys. But that is one of the unique things about our country, is that we're made up of 50 different states, or how many states there are, and colonies. That like each state calls its own shots. Like Florida's like, hey, we are wide the fuck open. Texas is like, hey, we're gonna reopen bars 50%, 75%. Over the next 2 years, you definitely have the ability to move to a different state if you so choose. So I would recommend finding the state of your liking. But like Washington is not a state, and so I'm just saying that like not only are 200 different countries handling it different, but without any type of overall guidance, 50 states are totally handling this absolutely differently. And so that is why I always it's the thing about everybody's so convinced that somehow there's a big enough group that could pull off this type of a fucking hoax. And if they could, would it be leading us to some horrible place? Like, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna fake a plague for a year, and then at the end of the year, we're gonna kill everybody who wasn't involved in the plague faking through the G5 microchip potato chips. And I guess as Planetary Defense Commander and as a screenwriter, I'd like to think things out in major steps. Where it's like step 1, step 2, step 3. And so if there were great master plans, like even George W. Bush, what was that, 70s? Most of them are in their like 80s or late 70s, 80s, 90s are dead. And so even talking about some type of master plan, you're talking about the master plan that was like mainly being, even if it's 100 years old, like it was like 50 years old. And so all the people who are instituting it are all in their fucking 80s. And that however you want to look at it, like there is a ton of responsibility and power in the hands of everyone right now. Because we had a system that kept everything in place for 120 years, and now we need a new system. And I guess it's that simple. There you go, I simplified it. Thank you. And that's why I still, at this point, it still seems like, even though the president's like trust the plan, QAnon's like trust the plan, the thing that blows people's minds is there was no plan. It seems like there is no plan. And you can disagree with me, but I'll say that again. There was no plan. There is no plan. So now we have to figure out a new plan. And to me, if you can eliminate all the negative shit, that is exciting. Because we have all the resources, all the tools, everything we need on planet Earth to build our wildest dreams and feed everyone and stop millions of people dying from fucking diarrhea. And the biggest hurdle is the economic hurdle of the people who have the most amount of money, convincing them how having a system of abundance is a big win for everyone. And it definitely seems like it's like the poor, middle class, and lower millionaire class have no faith in the rich, and the rich have no faith in the classes under them. But I guess that's what I'm here for. Someone gave me a D minus, and if that's true, then we might be totally fucked. Oh yeah, another thing. I'm definitely going to be Planetary Defense Commander for the rest of 2020. But we will see what I'll do after that. Because if we have not seen any major shifts or improvements in anything, then, I don't know what I'm going to do. All right, one more cigarette. Now, I did my very best. I don't think I'll quit, but I'm just saying. I don't know what's going to happen next. And that like if America just decides that it wants to be at war with itself, that I don't know what I'm saying. And it's just like, how you have to have your own fantasies to escape reality? And sometimes I fantasize that, like, Planetary Defense Commander is the globe, and I'm not doing great with my own United States of America. And we seem to be the stubbornest and way off courses mentally. And so it just kind of seems like I was saying, all the aggro I get out of Colorado now, or California, or wherever, that, I don't know, part of me thinks it would be easier to just like, all right, I can protect Texas, and you are more than fucking welcome to move to Texas and be cool. But that if the West Coast and the East Coast just want to sell, divide, and conquer for 8 more years, you know what I'm saying? I don't think, well, who knows? Someone said Texas is done. Since I've been at Thor News, I have seen a million predictions of other people. And Texas is definitely not done. Like I said, Willie Nelson for president. But that, no offense, but that's part of the shit of like, you'd never hear Texans saying Texas is done. They're like, I assume if you say Texas is done, that you were from another state. And so, like I was saying before in the video, that like saying betting on doom for the last 20 years, it's not a Texas thing. That like I don't have to convince my fellow Texans that the world's gonna end, that the world is not going to end tomorrow. I don't think I have to convince my fellow Texans that bad guys are going to beat us and we aren't going to have a chance. And that like if I explained to Texas that like at some point we were going to have an education event, and so we needed people to move west, we need to build cities in the west, I think Texas would be up to the challenge to adapt to that shit. That I'm a Sagittarius and that like I'm a natural born optimist. And that Texas is kind of feels like Sagittarius. And that Texas, we have a can-do spirit. And so at times it gets tiring to have the flavor of other states. Oh, you know, if it's negative, but I, you know, there has definitely been an influx of outside and political energy in Texas over the last 5 or 10 years. And so even the amount Texas has been divided or is divided right now surprised me. You guys are great. Mercury's going retrograde in like 5 days. And then it goes direct on election day. We got Eris. And I think like Eris showed up at some party with all the beautiful goddesses and had a golden apple and was like, this apple is for the fairest of you all. And then like all the women fought over the apple. And so that caused giant gang fights throughout all the goddesses and gods and the people. Where whatever great the big push of division is coming like in the next 10 days. And we'll have chaos. And if you have been reading the signs of the year, all the way up to now, you could take a guess what those events might be. And there's some type of giant market crash out there as well. And so, yeah, October's going to be dangerous and spooky. Am I scared? No. Because the whole year's been spooky. And if there has been one good thing about doing this, I've been getting death threats since 2013 And so I still get them. And so thinking that I could die every day has helped me not be scared. And so no, I'm not scared, man. And like I said, if Ariana, Selena, Billy, or Amelia, or Nick showed up on my doorstep and asked for a dip kiss, I would do it probably sight unseen. Knowing there's like a 10% chance they might have acquired the coronavirus. And so would I take a calculated risk? Yes, absolutely. Do I think I would survive? Yes, absolutely. But if it got me and I died, as Jimi Hendrix said, I'm the one who's got to die when I got to die, so let me live my life the way I want to. And so, yeah, I'm not scared. They're giant fucking challenges. Right now, it kind of feels impossible that we are ever going to come together as a people. That I have actively disagreed with Republicans and Democrats consistently for 8 years. I'm still here. So no, I mean, I'm not scared. And as a Sagittarius with lots of Jupiter or Capricorn placements, having Saturn and Jupiter in the sky every night, like tonight when I walk 5 miles, they're in the sky, follow me the whole time. And so I was talking to them as well. But that, like, I have a bunch of fucking power-ups. And it has been like a buddy picture where I've been hanging out with Saturn, the planet, for 5 years, and he's not always the funnest guy. But I do think the black cube then learned all the colors during that time. And so I feel like I'm in a decent position for the future. So that when things change, all the last 5 years of everything I did, all the work, it will absolutely be fucking worth it. That if we do get to a better place and bad guys don't totally defeat us, we're going to have fun, and I'm going to be a beneficiary of all that fun we are going to have. You know what I'm saying? Someone said, yeah, have you had any fun over the last decade? Did you have any fun from the year 2000 to 2010? Like, did you listen to music? Did you eat food? Did you dance? Like, this is a collective experience. And okay, I want to say this before my camera loses power. There have definitely been people who totally enjoyed talking about conspiracy theories or just politics or politicians nonstop for the last few years. Where that's all they talked about. That's all they tweet about. That's all, like, that has been the centerpiece. That has been the star on their Christmas tree. And that at some point the world is going to, or America's not going to be so focused, like politics isn't going to be the only subject ever discussed. And that we'll broaden our mind and our horizons again. And so that is the world I've always been looking forward to, like much more of a 90s feel. That is where we're heading back towards, is like a 90s feel. And so I don't know, like, it's going to be a weird adjustment. That this Capricorn style, like Capricorn is government. So what, with Pluto, Jupiter, and Saturn in Capricorn, what have we been talking about nonstop? Politics. You can say you don't believe in politicians, but still the president's a fucking politician. And so we've been talking about politics and politicians nonstop. Like, it's been the only fucking subject for like years. And so now that the big guns are about to leave Capricorn, go into Aquarius, it's the age of Aquarius. So like the focus will not be, like the collective focus will not be on government. That government will not be the most interesting subject out there. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. But the people who have put their identity and all their energy into politics, I do not know how well they are going to be able to adapt. Like, if you really thought you were going to get to spend 4 years screaming at everybody about how great Trump is and he's the greatest fucking president ever, that may not be what happens. So you may not get you can still worship him and shit or talk about how great he is, but there's a chance he's not going to be president. But I have a weird feeling people are going to adapt pretty fucking quickly. That people are going to remember the world is much bigger than one single fucking election. That there are far more interesting subjects to Asteroid Fight Club other than politics and the plague. And that the 10 years half the country spent turning the other half of the country into a boogeyman, we learned a lot of lessons the hard way. And Cosmic Hillbilly, and it's not that necessarily like Pluto brings doom. Pluto has always been the ferryman of like Hades. So that my dad passed away when he was 64. My stepdad was 74, might be off a year or two, I'm bad with years. But and Eddie Van Halen passed away at 63. You don't know when death comes for you. And that definitely in 2020, the baby boomers have been getting hit harder than everybody else, no doubt. There's no question. And just like someone said the other day, that like if there were like Illuminati kings and queens, that like Ruth Bader Ginsburg may have been the queen, and if like let's say Trump was the king, that the like kings and queens of the 80s, they had their time, it was like, and that their time is over, whether he lives or the virus gets him. but just that it's like a natural evolutionary transfer of seasons changing. They're like JFK could be president at 40 in his 40s. But now we're obsessed with the Bob Dole, where you got to be like 70 to lead everybody. I don't know. And that's what I'm saying. I don't know who Pluto is taking, the ferryman. I don't think it's going to be me. It could. We'll see. I definitely think I'm here for 14 more years. And so, I would like to enjoy those 14 years. And I'm stubborn enough that I'm going to believe, like I said, we'll see how the next 3 months play out, but the world has war fatigue. All the fighting, we're all tired of the fighting, whether people want to admit it or not. Most people understand that war is not the way forward. And so, yeah, peace on earth, Merry Christmas, God bless everyone. Better days are ahead. Though, like I said, the big days of whatever's gonna happen, I would have food stocked up, batteries. Between now and December, that Herman Cain timeline, that the lethality of the virus with people over 70, it's like a 1 in 3 chance. Or 10% if you don't have any comorbid, like. And so what has happened over the first week of October has been fucking major. If you live in a world where it's just a hoax, even if it was a hoax and you have the White House, a bunch of people in the White House and the Pentagon saying, hey, we're going to disappear for 2 weeks, that is major. That